Welcome to Profitable Women, a podcast for the female business owner who wants to build a profitable and sustainable business that aligns with their life. We will talk about the money stories impacting your decisions, financial strategies to grow your profits, and how to embrace your female superpowers. I'm your host, Sheila Hansen, certified public accountant, business mentor, and certified coach. As a wife, mom of 3, and business owner, I have spent the last 7 years supporting 6-figure business owners make confident financial decisions while raising my babies. After making the hard decision to leave my job at a public accounting firm when I had my oldest, I'm now on a mission to empower women to build wealth without sacrificing themselves. If you find yourself avoiding conversations about money, are burnt out from working all the time, wonder where your cash goes, or want to learn how to pay yourself 6 figures, you're in the right place. Remember, the information in this podcast is general in nature and for educational purposes only. For specific financial advice for your situation, please consult a professional. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the show. Welcome back for another solo episode here on Profitable Women. Today, we are digging into sales data and metrics. And before we dig into the main content, I want to make sure we take a minute to talk about metrics and how we should view them. There's 2 main categories for metrics. One is leading and the other is lagging. So leading metrics are important because those are the activities that we actually have control over and will often lead to the lagging metric or the results. So when it comes to the category of sales, most of your leading metrics are going to be tied to your marketing type activities, sales conversations you're having, number of times you talk about an offer, number of emails you send, content you create, like number of podcast episodes or social media posts, networking opportunities you attend. Those are all examples of leading metrics, the things that we can control and take ownership of. Lagging metrics, on the other hand, are going to show you the results of those efforts. So that's going to be things like sales dollars or revenue amounts, number of likes that you receive on a post, number of downloads of a podcast episode, number of email subscribers or click rates. You ultimately don't have control over the lagging metric amounts or results. We really can only control the leading ones. When we're reviewing financial data, most of the time we're dealing with those lagging metrics. So as we start with that, we eventually want to set our goals to know and identify what the leading metric associated with that particular lagging financial metric is to be able to impact the end result. But first, we have to understand that financial data and have a way to measure it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to specifically talk about the numbers involved with sales metrics. So I want to talk about 3 different ways that we can dig into sales numbers, sales amounts, and help us make sense of things more than just looking at total revenue or total sales as a whole. The first thing, and something that is not overly common, especially if somebody is doing their own bookkeeping, is to break revenue down into more meaningful categories. It's very common just because chart of accounts and how you post things on a standard profit and loss report is often tied to how things get reported on tax returns. So you often will see sales as just one line item. One big number, but then you'll have all your expenses broken out. I want to see revenue broken out into more meaningful categories. So what this might look like is different service areas or offers that you have, or it could be even tied to type of customer. So the specific breakdown is going to depend on your industry or the particular offers, but the goal is for it to provide you with additional information than what's just going on with total sales. So as an example, within my own business, I have monthly reoccurring offers. I have strategy type offers, like one-time offers, and then I have tax preparation fees. So all 3 of those are separate categories within my sales. So I can see month over month what my monthly reoccurring revenue is for those that have hired me on ongoing support compared to when I sell just strategy or consulting offers compared to when I'm preparing tax returns and the fees involved with those. So a few other examples you might have is done for you services compared to strategy offers, service offerings compared to products. If you have, let's say, an IT business where you're doing maintenance and consulting along with them buying hardware and computers from you. You might also have like one-on-one type offers versus group coaching or group offers, speaking versus coaching. Those would be some examples of what I'm referring to when we break down revenue into more meaningful categories. One thing this helps us do is identify how much of the overall revenue is generated from each of those service areas within my business. So then when I go to make investments or look at where I should be spending my time, I can refer back to that information and it will help me prioritize where the next thing I should focus on. So if 80% of my revenue comes from one particular area, what would it do and how could I impact my overall business by creating some efficiencies there or making that particular offer and service line have additional value? That's the type of information we can get when we have these broken out. Next, we can start looking at historical trends. So this is where doing your bookkeeping more often than once a year for tax time is going to help provide additional information. So we can start looking at things month over month, year over year. And one of my favorite visual metric charts to review with my clients, especially if they have inconsistent revenue month to month or quarter to quarter, is to look at these trends to create a chart for them that shows revenue each month and compare it to the previous 12 months or even go back further. It becomes eye-opening to see the trends that are happening and helps to ease our minds when maybe there's a month that wasn't as high as what we have been seeing. We can look back and see that particular month every year is always just a little bit lower. Or when we have an unusually high month, we know that there's a month before or after it that is going to have a different result historically than what this result we're seeing now is. So we can start to see those trends and we can start to plan around it. Maybe your particular business, fourth quarter or the end of the year to the beginning of the year is always a lower period. We can use that data to now start building up some cash reserves when we have some higher months leading up into that slower period of time. Or when we have higher months, we can know that that maybe isn't consistent and going to continue at that new amount. And so we can be setting and stockpiling some of that cash so that we're not spending everything that we're making. And in the months that are lower, scrambling to try to find the cash in those months. Hey there, fellow female business owner. Are you tired of sifting through endless articles, resources, and scrolling social media just to find the nuggets of wisdom that actually apply to your journey? Well, I've got something just for you. When you join our weekly email list, you will receive a go-to resource with actionable tips, inspiring stories, and valuable insights tailored specifically for women entrepreneurs like you. Each week, we deliver a dose of empowerment straight to your inbox, covering everything from mastering your money mindset to navigating the ever-changing landscape. Join other like-minded women who are leveling up their business and living their dreams. Sign up for the weekly email today, and let's conquer the business world together. Head on over to the show notes and find the link for you to enter your email address to get started. You'll be the first to hear about upcoming masterclasses and have weekly action items to contribute to your success. Sign up today. When we combine the first way of measuring data with the second that we were just talking about, we can now get our eye on the trends by service offer. So going back to my business as an example, I can review my monthly reoccurring revenue month over month and not have it get skewed by the months that I'm collecting tax preparation fees. But because those fees are typically only happening a couple months out of the year, then I can look at those as a whole and compare them year over year to see how that particular area of the business is growing. So now I can pull it apart and know my sales, how much of it has grown because my month by month revenue and that reoccurring offer is growing versus my one time a year offer. And the final area I want to talk about on this episode, as we have been talking about sales, is to have a way to pull your sales data by customer or maybe by source. This can provide additional value as we're making decisions on who to serve and how to serve them. It can identify if there's a risk in most of our revenue being tied to one or maybe a few particular clients and what we might need to put in place as far as a larger cash reserve to protect against that risk of all of it tied to one particular customer. Now, the detail of sales by customer is going to depend on your business. And if you have a client roster, let's say like somewhere between 0 and 30 clients, this information could be really valuable to you. And you can use it to, one, start identifying the lifetime value of that client. And when you're making marketing decisions or budgets around what it takes to bring on a new client, you have that data to see, well, historically, they spend $10,000 with us, or historically, they only spend $2,000. So we can make decisions based on how much we would be willing to spend to bring on a new client and make it worth it for us. The other area is as you approach your capacity, let's say as you're leveling up clients or introducing new offers at a new price point, you can use that client roster and the sales by customer amount to identify who is more profitable or who's less profitable for you. And if you needed to make some cuts or make some adjustments in your overall client load, you can use that to identify where those cuts could be made from. So with all of this talk about how to dig into your sales, how you'd want to show it on your profit and loss statement, what information you'd want to have access to, there's also a couple details when it comes to your bookkeeping that should be factored in on how sales get reported, like making sure that you're posting the full sales amount collected from your client or customer with the credit card processing charges broken out as an expense item. Or if you have a business that sales tax applies, we want to record that separately and pull that amount out and record it to a liability account. These would be items that if your bookkeeping is simply based on amounts hitting your bank account, it might not be done properly and it could be skewing some numbers for you. So I hope from today's episode, you'll see there's so much more value that your sales data can provide than simply just knowing what the total is per month. Of course, that's where we need to start. But reviewing and looking at other numbers and metrics will give us the ability to make better financial decisions for our business. And that's what we want to become, is confident financial decision makers. And know that we can start with the lagging metrics and tie those back to the leading metrics. So when we need to make a difference and impact those lagging ones, we know exactly where to spend our time and energy. So until next time, I encourage you to dig into those sales numbers and see what you can find. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Profitable Women. Make sure you never miss an episode by hitting the follow button in your favorite podcast player. And things are always easier when you talk about them with a friend, so be sure to share this episode with them. If you're looking for more ways to grow your financial confidence, head to the show notes for a link to subscribe to our weekly email. Until next time.